There's a legend round here. A killer buried, but not dead. A curse on Crystal Lake. A death curse. Jason Voorhees' curse. They say he died as a boy, but he keeps coming back. Few have seen him and lived. Some have even tried to stop him. No one can. People forget he's down there, waiting.
Hello, and welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the NECA Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood Ultimate Jason Voorhees figure. Now, I have been waiting for this figure since it was released, and I'm pretty sure early 2021. The moment I saw it up on Big Bad Toy Store for pre-order, I wanted to pre-order it, but I wanted to wait until it was finally released, and I finally got my hands on it, so let's take a look at it. This figure includes 2 heads, 2 masks, a brush cutter, wood cutter, sickle, knife, tent stake, machete, and axe for Jason Voorhees. Starting with the head, you can see it's just the pretty simple Part 7 mask with this really nice detailing around here for where he got hit with the boat propeller in Part 6. You can see the kind of nasty chewed up part of the jaw where the teeth are jutting out, which we'll take a look at later. But because of that, there's this part right here. And what I do like is there's like these holes right here are not fully connected, and it's all kind of like blackened around that spot. There's just really nice attention to detail to like the whole figure in this regard. Also, the mask is a fair bit smaller like it is in the film. Now, I don't know if that's because of water or anything, but when you take a look at it compared to, like, let's say the Part 4 mask, the holes are a lot closer to the top and bottom as opposed to that. And I don't know why, but the mask has kind of shrunk in that regard in the film. Well, not shrunk, but kind of like been eaten away. It has the single red chevron, just like in Part 6, as well as this small axe wound, which leads and lines up perfectly with that part in the head, as you can see. You also have this part from when he gets stabbed with the machete in Part 4. If we take the mask off, you can see you have the very gnarly Part 7 face, with the teeth and exposed bone around the eye, which you can see is all eaten away, as well as this eye right here. Now, one thing I do find weird about Jason in general is this was his lazy eye in previous films, but now this one works because he got stabbed in his good eye. But that's just a small kind of detail that annoys me sometimes. But yeah, it's a very nice head sculpt all the way around. I think it looks really good. And yeah, there's not much else to it. Now, if we do end up taking this head off, you can see there is just a simple ball joint, as well as the fact that the chain is actually just a separate part that is draped over there. So be careful when taking the head off, because you might lose that. But there is one more head you can put on, which is just a wide mouth compared to this one, which is a more neutral face. But there is also one more difference in that there's this peg in the back. So when you end up putting the head on, you can see it looks very nice on the body. Obviously, it's detailed just like the other one, but yeah, you can just appreciate all the detail they put into the head sculpt of this figure. But with that peg on the back, you do come included with this mask from when Tina kind of splits it in half on Jason's face. And if you connect it, it does conjoin together very nicely into this mask, and these are both very consistently detailed across one another. So then you just come around the back of this figure, and then you take this and you stick it right there into that peg. And then you kind of position it any way you want, and it looks like that, which I think looks very cool on the figure. One more quick thing to note about the mask and head of this figure is at first I thought the eye holes were blackened out when I opened up this figure, but when you take off the mask you can clearly see they're not. But that's just because of how sunken in, like, the parts of the face are. And what that really nicely does is make it look like the eye holes are blackened out, because, at least in my opinion, I really like it when you can't see the eyes on Jason, because I think it makes him look a lot more menacing. So I really like how that looks on this figure. Moving on to the accessories this figure comes included with. I'm going to start with just these 2 extra hands he comes included with. Both of these are just relaxed hands, so I don't see a lot of need to put them in. But you can see, just like on the other hands, they have this bone detailing on there, which I think looks incredibly nice on this figure, as well as the fact that just like the Frankenstein figure that I reviewed, it bends also right here is a joint. As opposed to just at the hands swivel, it can also bend inwards and outwards like that, which I really like. They started including with their new figures. First accessory I'm going to take a look at is this kitchen knife. Now, what I do like about NECA is for every single figure, they include like a different knife. They don't usually repeat things, so like compared to like the 2018 Michael Myers knife, let's say, you can see they are 2 very different sculpts. This one's a lot bigger, different colors, that kind of stuff, which I really like. But anyways, that does just fit into his hand very simply. You just slide it right into there. This is definitely not a weapon I would display Jason with, but it does look very nice with the figure, and I do like that they included it. Another weapon is the tent stake that he uses, kind of in the beginning of the movie, mainly. This slides into the hand a little bit harder, as you can see, but it still does end up working if you can just get it in there correctly. Like that. As you can see, he just grips it pretty tightly. The whole end is soaked in blood because those are, I think, the first 2 kills that you see him get in the beginning of the movie with it. It obviously has that kind of ridge in there, and I can't tell if this is a wire or not that's running through there, but it does make it a bit harder to make him hold the tent stake. The next one I'm going to take a look at is the sickle. This is the most off-screen used weapon, and it's only used once. But it is a very menacing looking weapon if you let him hold it. As you can see, one thing I don't like is this has a hole in both sides, like right there, because of the molding, I'm pretty sure. But it still does look very nice in his hands. It's a bit small, and that kind of makes sense. We don't actually see him hold it in full, we just see him hold it from behind a wall. But it does still look very good in his hand, especially if you can like kind of pose it down like this. Obviously, the most iconic item Jason could come included with is a machete. Now, compared to every other machete, this is still a different mold. For example, I have the part 3 here. You can see this blade is shinier, as well as bigger, and it is a different thing on bottom. This one has 4 instead of 3. This one also, of course, fits in this hand very simply. You kind of have to twist it in there. After you get it in there, it looks very nice. This is a very likely candidate for something I would display the figure with, but when compared to the next 3, it would not be my first choice. But yeah, then to get it out, just like you get it in, you kind of have to twist it sideways and bring it through this gap in the finger and thumbs, right? And because of the blocky handle, it is kind of hard to fit in his hand. Next is this axe. As you can see, it has blood on it very much around kind of the bottom head of the axe and on the handle, because in the film he kind of golf swings it right into the bottom of that dude's jaw. This looks very nice in the hand, but again, like the machete, it is kind of blocky, so it's a bit harder to work in there. But once it is in there, it makes the figure look very menacing. And if I can take it out, I can compare it to the part 3 axe, which at first I did think it was a remold of, but if I get that really quickly, you can see that not even the head is the same mold, which I think is kind of very impressive for the figure, that they make just a whole new set of weapons for every figure. Second up is the wood cutter, or tree cutter, however you say it. This is, I'm pretty sure, used to cut branches off trees. As you can see, it has this kind of bleached wood, just like the axe, as well as this red thing around the handle, which I really like. It gives this weapon and the kind of weed whacker we'll look at next a very distinct look compared to other weapons with Jason Voorhees. Now, this is meant to go in both hands, and it fits in pretty well. As you can see, in one hand, it does look pretty good, and if I can get it into both hands, it looks a fair bit better in both hands, but what is a little awkward because this is just a bit short, so you'd have to kind of work it in there kind of weirdly. But last and certainly not least in my favorite accessories is this kind of weed whacker bush trimmer. Here, let me zoom out so I can get it into frame. The number one contender for the weapon I'll be displaying him with is this kind of weed whacker, or like bush cutter, whatever it is, that he uses to kill Dr. Cruz. This is the only motorized weapon Jason has ever used, and it looks very cool with him in the movie. It has this distinct red trim like the other does, and the wheel on mine kind of spins okay, the saw. It's not great, but that's not the main functionality of this. It looks very good in the hands. Before I do that, I can show you some of the detail up here. You have things like pull cords and wirings if my camera's going to focus on it. As you can see, you have like the motor and the pull cord and stuff like that. And it is kind of hard to fit into Jason's hands, but I can try to show that. So you start with this black handle piece down here, and you start to fit it into his hand. And then up here, you take this hand, and you kind of move his thumb into there. And then you have him holding it, which looks very nice. This is the best weapon to display with the figure. In my opinion, it's very menacing. You can get a lot of good angles with it, especially if you tip his head down, kind of make him look at it. It is one of the best weapons NECA has ever included with a figure. With that out of the way, we can take a look at the rest of the body. Obviously, you have this rusted chain, but just below that, you have this just incredible detailing on the figure. You have this rubber shirt that's just all entirely tangled with this kind of flesh design under it that's very leathery. You can see ribs poking out on each side. It is an incredible body sculpt for this figure, and I think it looks very nice with it. You also have tears on the arms going down here. Obviously, you have the bones on each of the hands. And on the back is actually some of the best detailing of this figure. Most figures don't look good. Well, they don't look bad from the back, but this figure looks incredible from the back, with this exposed spine back here and the shoulder blades. When you go down, you can just see a bit more of the spine back there. Going down, you have this kind of midsection of the pants, which is the only part without any tears on it. The legs here have just all this very nice detail around it. You have the kneecaps and just all the rotted flesh around it. Now, because of the rubber that is used around that, the legs can't like close very well as much as other NECA figures, but that's not too much of an issue because Kane Hodder has a very wide stance as Jason, so it doesn't matter as much. Now down here with the shoes, there are actually different shoes on this Jason. This is like more of a hiking shoe, like a tall boot, when compared to something like the Part 4 Jason, which just has these kind of dress shoes, which is movie accurate, not continuity accurate in terms of the film. I don't know why they ended up doing that, but it looks very nice on the figure. And then just down near the boots, you have all the tattered remains of the pants going over that. I have brought in 2 other figures to help me with the size comparison. You can see that the Freddy vs. Jason figure, standing in at 8 inches, just towers over these other 2 Jasons, which is not a big surprise. But these 2 7.5-inch Jasons do compare very well to each other. They're about the same height. So that does work very well when like displayed next to each other, which I do very much like. Moving on to the box, you can see it's just the very simple The New Blood poster, which I really like the knife in between the 2 main characters of the film. You can see around the side it just has this image of Jason up here as well as on the top, and the other side they really like using that image. On the back it has the opening monologue out there of the film, as well as just all these really nice images of Jason. But yeah, the box is very simple. One thing I did notice is with all the Friday the 13th boxes, none of them have like the ultimate figure text below, as you can see. But things like the Michael Myers, the Frankenstein, and the Big Chap all have the Ultimate Edition or the Ultimate Figure, something like that underneath, which I do find weird. I don't know why they do that. Thank you for watching till the very end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. I have some other NECA videos you can check out. But other than that, bye!